Hello, friends. I want to talk about music that may not be actually music. You know what I'm talking about? Like music that you listen to when you don't really want to listen to music. Some folks call it ambient music. You know, I've talked about ambient music a lot, and that idea that Brian Eno had where it's the kind of music that you can ignore. It's ignorable music. It's music that just adds to the ambience of the room that you're in or the house that you live in or the traffic outside. The music, you put the record on and that music adds to the ambience of your ambience. And sometimes there are other levels of ambience that aren't beautiful, because some of the Brian Eno, most of the Brian Eno music is really pretty. You put it on and it's beautiful. You can listen to it and it's soothing and relaxing and almost like listening to a water fountain flowing, the water sounds, or listening to a fire crackle, those kind of soothing sounds that happen in nature. Or you go outside and you hear the birds singing, it's like those kind of natural ambiences. And I think some musicians try to recreate a feel for, to make your room into another place where you put this music on. And sometimes they say, turn it down to where you can barely hear it, so that it's a part of the rush of noises that you hear. One person who did this in a way that is still, people are still talking about it. It's still, controversial. Not really controversial, because I think everybody kind of accepts it now and is okay with it. But at the time, I think it was like, what the hell is this? You guys like Lou Reed? I'm sure Lou Reed, Velvet Underground, and his solo albums, which are incredible and beautiful. I love his albums like Berlin, and all of those are great. But he did this one album in 1975. You're probably way ahead of me now. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm going to bring up. It's called Metal Machine Music by Lou Reed. It is a double album set. There's 2 LP records in there. And when you put this record on, I think you can find clips from it, or maybe the whole thing on the YouTubes, on the internet's out there somewhere, and listen to it for yourself and see what you think. And see what you think it is. See what you think the intent of it was. What was Lou Reed going for here? There's obviously a lot of effort to put out an album, but this double album set by some people's standards is awful. It's like terrible. It's just noise. And yes, in fact, it is just noise. In fact, that is what it is. It is just noise. Supposedly feedback, he lists the instruments on the back here, or not instruments, but the devices that he used. He used an arbiter distorter that he has in parentheses, or in brackets here, it says Jimmy's, so Jimi Hendrix's arbiter distortion pedal. 5 piggyback Marshall tube amps in series. Avoidance of any type of atonality, Electro Voice high filter microphones, Fender tremolo unit, Sun tremolo unit, ring modulator, an octave relay jump, Fender dual Showman bass amp with a reverb unit, and then he says no synthesizers, no ARP, no instruments with a question mark, and it sounds like what you might imagine if you just plugged a whole bunch of stuff into some high-powered amplifiers and just let it self-modulate, feedback, but not that squealing like feedback, but feedback of machines that are feeding themselves signal. Like if you get some kind of distortion, interference to the signal in a distortion unit, and then that's going through another unit that's creating this feedback loop of sounds that are being processed and then reprocessed and then reprocessed, and then that new sound is being reprocessed. You know what I mean? It's an interesting concept, And here are 2 LP albums full of that sound that you get when you basically let gear self-modulate, or it's self-generative generative music, I think. But I hesitate to say the word music because I think what it is an ambience. I've put this record on. I mean, you listen to it one time and you're like, all right, am I never going to listen to that again? Are you going to put it on when friends come over? I'm going to put it on when I'm driving, or, it's not that kind of a thing. It's sort of a pop art kind of a thing. So almost like when Andy Warhol decided to use, or maybe somebody before him decided to use product labels and logos to recycle them as art, which kind of creates a feedback loop. You're taking something that's already created, the Campbell Soup label, and then you're processing that into a piece of art, which is the Campbell Soup label, which is then used in other things, and other people take that idea and they're like, oh, we can use other people's labels and comic books and things as our own art, which turns into like sampling and appropriation and all that. Eventually, the Campbell Soup Company used Andy Warhol's style designs, and they made a limited series of Campbell Soup tomato soup cans that had Andy Warhol coloring and styling on them. But I think in a way, that's what Lou Reed was doing with this album, Metal Machine Music. He was kind of recycling the things that people use to create rock and roll and music, the amps, the effects pedals, the gear, the microphones, the monitor speakers and things like that, and just letting them make sounds on their own. It's not a pleasant record. If you buy it expecting to hear songs by Lou Reed, no, it's not that. It is and I'm not exaggerating. It's four sides of noise, noise. And if you play it and listen to it, I don't think the intent was to sit down with your headphones and just kind of like rock out to it or zone out to it. It's not even hypnotic type noise. It's not like ambient Brian Eno style noise. It is noise that other musicians, other creative artists have explored. People like Merzbow, if you look that up, which I think can be interesting in certain contexts. I have listened to that. I put it on sometimes. I put on Merzbow every once in a while. But what I do is I put the volume down really low, and I have it so that it becomes a part of the ambience of the room, and the changes in there, the little slight variations in the sound, which happens on the Lou Reed album. There are slight variations, and there are sounds that kind of come and go, like in and out, little odd sounds, bits and pieces. And it takes you kind of to an ambience. It puts you in a frame of reference of that, almost like you're in a kind of a factory or some sort of a machine, like you're in a metal machine, and it is part of your ambience now for 80 minutes or however long. And it kind of adds a little bit, but I'm not gonna say that I appreciate it as music. I think I've read some reviews where some people are like, "Oh, it's amazing," and I listen to it and I put the headphones on and I love it, and I'm not sure I can go there with this, but it does have a place. I keep it in my record collection, and I think it's to me, it's more of like an interesting artifact. I have to say. It's 1975. Think about, look up what was also going on in music in that year, and this is unlike anything. And Lou Reed, I think, he's a musician, sure, but I think he was also an artist. He was also a creative force, someone who experimented, pushed envelopes, did all that stuff that artists should do. And he created this thing, and people were still talking about it. I'm talking about it. And it sells for a lot of money on eBay. It's not like, because I guess because it's not, they don't keep it in print, because people aren't dying to go out and buy it like they do with Dark Side of the Moon or something. But I am in one instance on this podcast that I'm not going to say check it out, go out and get it, buy it. I'm going to say check it out just as a historical artifact, a reference to a time and a time in music history and the creative work of a very creative musical genius that we sadly have lost, Lou Reed. It's one of the many things that he did, and it serves a purpose for me, and perhaps it would serve a completely different purpose for you. But it is an historical artifact of pop culture that I think is really interesting, and it's worth talking about just to see what people's opinions are of it. Some people hate it. Some people are like, "Oh, I hate that. What a ripoff," and other people are like, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Anyway, check it out if you want to. And I will talk to you again real soon.